Ladies and gentlemen, Black Monday is here, and it's kind of like Black Friday for an NFL fan, but it's significantly more special and probably 10 times as stressful, as fans of horrific teams sit back and pray to God that their terrible head coaches and general managers finally get fired. So in this video, we're going to be covering each and every firing, except one in particular, because I believe that deserved its own video. So before we get to the content, we are giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. We hit the 50K follower goal on Instagram, so make sure you're following there, because this week I'm going to be announcing a $500 winner. Make sure you like the video, because I'm actually in the process of moving, but nothing could stop me from making this video for you guys, man. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Let's start this video with who didn't get fired, and that is none other than Joe Judge. This is probably one of the most surprising non-firings thus far, because Joe Judge looked so freaking incompetent as a head coach that he literally ran a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 8 yesterday when the New York Giants played in their final game of the season. Now, in the case of Joe Judge, apparently the New York Giants players did not like him. However, it seems like he was able to make his case, and as a result, according to Josina Anderson, he is going to stay, which, by the way, completely blows my freaking mind, because Joe Judge hasn't shown any promise as a head coach whatsoever. I don't see what bringing him back for yet another season is going to accomplish. He actually had good pieces on the offense this year. I know a lot of you guys would say Daniel Jones isn't a great quarterback, but he had Daniel Jones and a tremendous wide receiver core. He also got Saquon Barkley back at some point, and I'm not saying that the New York Giants should have been a top 5 or top 10 offense. What I'm saying is, at least show me that you can make these pieces work together before opting to bring back a head coach that only won 4 games this season. That clearly is just another Bill Belichick copycat that is failing at copying Bill Belichick. Honestly, up until this point, I don't see why Joe Judge would retain his job. I don't see why Joe Judge would still be brought back. But this is the hill that the New York Giants want to die on. At least their general manager, Dave Gettleman, is retiring, so maybe they'll be able to make some more intelligent roster transactions, except the Odell Beckham Jr. trade, which was actually pretty brilliant. The other individual that was also a Bill Belichick disciple that wasn't as lucky was Brian Flores. He got fired, and I would dive into this a little bit more, but we are making our own separate video on this. There's so much to unpack here that I personally don't agree with, so I'll read you the statement from the Miami Dolphins in of itself. The Miami Dolphins announced today that head coach Brian Flores has been relieved of his duties. Flores completed his 3rd season as head coach with a 24-25 record. I made a decision today to part ways with Brian Flores, said Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross. After evaluating where we are as an organization and what we need going forward to improve, I determined that key dynamics of our football organization weren't functioning at a level that I wanted to be, and felt that this decision was in the best interest of the Miami Dolphins. I believe we have a talented young roster in place and have the opportunity to be much better in 2022. I want to thank Brian for his hard work and wish him nothing but the best in the future. Flores was named the 13th head coach in team history. On February 4th, 2019, he began his coaching career as a special teams assistant for New England from 2008 to 2009. In 2010, Flores served as an offensive assistant and worked with special teams. He spent his final 8 seasons in New England coaching defense. This is actually going to have a huge effect on whether or not the Dolphins could go ahead and get Deshaun Watson. This needs its own separate video, because there's so much to discuss here that just watch out for our second video. For all you know, that video may have been posted before this. Now, on top of that, another head coach that got fired, unfortunately, this was our first head coach that got fired, was Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is one of those OGs in the NFL head coaching community. He is a tremendous defensive head coach. Unfortunately, it seemed like offensively he wasn't able to get the team going. In Vic Fangio's defense, it didn't really seem like the Denver Broncos were really getting him much help offensively. It seemed like that team was a quarterback away from absolute greatness. This could potentially be a ploy to potentially bring in a more exciting head coach to lure a top tier quarterback in free agency. We know that Russell Wilson's future might be a little bit out there. Deshaun Watson's available. You never know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. So that is something we're going to have to wait and see. I understand why Fangio was fired, but it's one of those situations that it didn't really seem like he was placed in the best situation either. Up next, we have none other than Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. Now, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are two individuals that Chicago Bears fans were absolutely excited for the possibility of these two getting fired. There were rumors during Thanksgiving that Matt Nagy was going to get fired. Then that was eventually debunked. Eventually, there was another rumor that suggested that Matt Nagy was going to get fired at the end of this year. That came out about a week ago. This was also from NBC, and since the first NBC report was debunked, I decided not to make another video on that because they proved to me that they weren't necessarily the most credible. But today, not only did Matt Nagy get fired, but thank God's grace, Ryan Pace got fired as well. I never think a general manager should have the ability to choose his second quarterback if his first quarterback was an absolute miss. And in Ryan Pace's case, he did make one decision that I really liked, and that was the Khalil Mack trade. I feel like that was an absolute steal of a trade, and he did well. I feel like he actually did an okay job constructing this roster. Signing Allen Robinson was a great move as well. Unfortunately, it just seems like Mitchell Trubisky and the development of him didn't work out. He brought in the wrong head coach to potentially get the most out of Trubisky. For all you know, Trubisky could just stink, but my personal football philosophy is you need to get the right head coach to get the most out of a quarterback. If the head coach can't get the most out of that young quarterback, then either the general manager is incompetent for drafting the wrong quarterback, or the general manager just had the wrong head coach in mind to get the most out of that quarterback. And I don't know, for all you know, Mitchell Trubisky could go on to just be a very good backup in the NFL, and I guess his skills just didn't translate, but this is a guy that only played like 10 games in North Carolina, and he was drafted as the number 2 overall pick over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, because for some reason Ryan Pace thought that this individual was like the next coming of Drew Brees. And I feel like that was just one of many just horrific decisions that the Chicago Bears made. Matt Nagy's a different story. I mean, Justin Fields seemed to be a remarkable scrambling QB, but for some reason he tried to put Justin Fields in strictly pocket passing situations this past year. He clearly wasn't the head coach for the Chicago Bears. Hopefully he goes back to the Kansas City Chiefs as an offensive coordinator if Eric Bieniemy leaves, or maybe he just follows another Andy Reid disciple to another location. We'll watch and we'll have to see. Finally, we have none other than Mike Zimmer and general manager Rick Spielman, which I'm gonna be honest, I was surprised that Rick Spielman got fired, but not as surprised that Mike Zimmer got fired, because honestly, Mike Zimmer has been with the Minnesota Vikings for quite some time, going all the way back to 2014. He's had some high points and he's also had some low points, but ultimately you could just tell that recently his offensive philosophy has been very outdated. He has a tremendous team with tremendous weapons: Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Alexander Madison, Adam Thielen. Kirk Cousins had a very efficient year this year, and no one's talking about it either. It's like a popular meme that Kirk Cousins literally threw 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions for a 66% completion percentage and 4,221 yards, but no one literally cared because the Minnesota Vikings weren't a good team this year. There was a statement released from Rick Spielman on the situation saying that I am honored to have been part of the Minnesota Vikings organization and this incredible community for the past 16 years. The people of this state welcomed me and my family and treated us with the utmost respect throughout our tenure. Michelle and I created many special memories with our children here, and we will always consider Minnesota our home. Vikings fans, you are some of the most passionate in all of sports. The tremendous game day atmosphere and home field advantage at US Bank Stadium is because of each of you. There is nothing like the emotions we share together at kickoff each Sunday. To the Vikings players, coaches, and staff, I sincerely appreciate your tireless efforts to win and your dedication to this community and the fan base. There are so many talented people throughout this organization, and because of that, the Vikings will continue to be a special place in the future. Finally, I want to thank Ziggy and Mark Wilf and the entire Wilf family for believing in me and consistently providing the resources to us to be successful as a football operations staff. It is not common in the NFL to be in a position for this long, which goes to show how this ownership group believes in stability and supports their leaders. While today is emotional, I wish the Minnesota Vikings and Vikings fans nothing but future success. And that's all we have up until now, man. If there's any update, I'll make sure to bring out a video on it. Let me know which of these firings you love the most and which you disagree with the most. We're gonna also keep track of the potential head coaches that might be signed and vetted for these positions, including none other than Mr. Jim Harbaugh, Kellen Moore, Doug Peterson, Jim Caldwell, among others. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.